We have Dan Sanchez in the building. How's it going, man?
It's going well. It's good to be here.
Which wonderful part of the world are you at today?
I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow. Now, the usual thing people associate with Nashville, Tennessee is, of course, country music and all other kinds of
Music.
music. Are you a musician yourself? Have you been a musician or marketing your thing?
You know, it's funny. I don't do any music. I appreciate it. I wish I did. In my retirement, I can't wait to learn how to play the guitar and the cello specifically. Right now, I actually do have an album out. Despite not being a musician, I have an album out on Apple and Spotify because I've been creating music with AI. A tool is called Suno specifically, and I love listening to that album, even if it's a an audience of like one or two or three people.
Who are the three people besides you? Is it
Oh,
family
I'm
or is
sure
it
it's my
friends?
mom and a few of my friends who liked that particular style of music that I couldn't find and wanted to see in the world. So I put it together with ChatGPT and Suno and then published it as an album.
What kind of genre is it? Is it more country-ish or is it more pop or rock or something else?
It is a combination of like alternative rock and trap rap mixed
Very
together,
nice.
and it's really fun.
I got to check it out. I will make sure that I put in the show notes for the people. But Dan, we're here to talk about AI and marketing. I've been getting so many people asking questions. We meet close to about 7 to 10 customers every week. I personally meet 7 to 10 customers every week. Most of them are mid-sized to larger companies. We don't have a lot of smaller companies and a lot of agencies. I at least deal with 2 to 3 agencies every week. Most of them are agencies that had a struggling time in 2024. 2024
Yeah.
was tough for a lot of agencies, right? 2023 was a little bit, but 2024 was really tough for a lot of agencies. So I wanted to talk to you first. Let's start from the top. You use AI in a lot of different ways, and you use it quite a bit. And some of it enhances the work that you do. Some of it just is probably very revealing to you as to what it does. Walk us through your mental model of AI. How do you use it? Why do you use it? What do you use it for? Let's start with that.
About a year and a half ago, it dawned on me that like AI was going to take over everything. So naturally, I'm a learner. I love learning everything. I have a big bookshelf behind me. If you can't see me, I read all the books. And when I decide to go all in on something, I will literally buy every single book ever written on the topic and read them all. I will go and interview all the experts on it. I will write blog posts about it in order to just solidify my own learning, even more so than just getting rankings on Google. And so a year and a half ago, I was like, AI, it's going to change all of marketing. And I freaking love marketing. So let's go. This is the thing. And then I went and searched for books and I went and searched for podcasts and YouTube channels and I found hardly anything. And I was like,
Yeah,
crap.
books. Are people still writing books, especially on
100%.
marketing?
Yes. Even
Really?
more. Like because of ChatGPT now, people are writing even more books. They're the AI written books are not high quality. They will be eventually. In fact, I expect 5, 10 years from now, like hardly any books will be written purely by humans. It'll always be co-piloted at least. That'll be the future. But I went all in on this thing and decided to learn everything. So I naturally needed to learn. So the only tool I had available to me, I started a whole podcast on it. I'm like, well, if there are no podcasts about it, then I'm going to be the one to start a podcast about it. I'm going
Right.
to go and interview all my friends or anybody doing anything remotely cool with AI. And I interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people doing cool stuff. And naturally, I rolled up my sleeves and learned everything I could about it. And I had to try to build a map. If you're going into a new
Yeah.
world, you have to try to build a map to figure out the lay of the land, to even get a sense of like what you want to do with it, how to approach it, like what are I started asking like what are the different categories of AI marketing? Are there categories? Can it even be organized into different categories? So I've actually broken it down into 5 different types of AI marketing, which has helped me kind of not only understand and gain a mastery in AI as it applies to marketing myself, but
Yeah.
also to teach it and actually explore it and know like, oh, I'm kind of weak in this category and or assess other people in it, assess myself in it. Those 5 types I'll go through really quickly. And if you want to dive into
Yeah.
one, that's fine. Um, the
No,
one
I
in the
think the
center,
other part of it is I probably have to have you come in a couple of different times over the next few
sure,
months
sure,
because you never can really do justice in one podcast to
for
five
sure.
different categories. But let's start with the 5 categories and then we'll talk a little bit more about
Yep.
one of them, I'm sure.
We'll deviate, but it's a AI is a co-pilot using it as a personal assistant for all kinds of different things, thinking, planning, organizing, ideating, as just a helper for you. So that's one. Number two is using it to create content. And that could be writing blog posts, coming up with music like my album, coming up with infographics or all kinds of different contexts. New videos starting to be created by AI. So that's two. Three is hyper personalization, creating experiences for your audience or your customers that are hyper personalized to their goals and their unique profiles. And it can be customized in all kinds of different ways. I have examples of that if you want, but I'm going to move on. Four is using it as conversational AI. I think that was kind of like an obvious choice as soon as ChatGPT came out. Like, oh, we can have conversations with that. You should be deploying it for your business, for inbound, for people who have questions or want to book meetings. It's actually replacing a lot of inbound SDRs, and I think people like it, prefer it. It's fast, it's efficient, it can answer questions really well on site chat as well as SMS or DMs on some profiles. It's certainly inbound phone calls. It handles it really well. And then lastly, using it for analytics and forecasting. I think this is still up and coming. There's only one tool that I really love in the AI analytics space right now, but this is developing really quickly too. So those are the five: Copilot, content, hyper personalization, conversational, and analytics and forecasting.
Let me go through a couple of things that caught my attention right away, and then maybe we'll drill into those, right? The first is a co-pilot. Let's talk about that a little bit. Copilot versus content. Now, I do use ChatGPT, I would say, as a copilot. I use literally three, four different of them. I keep taking output
Mhm.
from one, feeding into the input to the other, and try to
Sure.
refine, try to understand. But when you say copilot, help me understand the contours of that. Does that mean someone that helps you learn? I use Copilot, I'm sorry, I use a lot of LLMs for learning a lot. If I want a dense topic, I'll just say, give me everything that I want to learn about this topic, and it builds an outline, and I start going with that. That's one element of Copilot, right? The other element is, hey, I'm thinking through this, help me organize it, help me put together things. In your mind, what are the contours of Copilot? What all do you use it for?
I think if you just remove how you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude to create content, pretty much everything else people are using it for is in the Copilot realm.
Mm,
Whether you're ideating, thinking through a tough conversation that you need to have, analyzing your email, and then how you can make it more professional. All those are Copilot things. You're using it almost like a high level executive assistant that's taking care of you and helping you through and think through. It's almost like a co thinking thing. Oftentimes, I love using AI as a way to think smarter. I think this is a big use case of AI. I actually talk to ChatGPT all the time about all kinds of things. I help it troubleshoot relationships, right? Because we all have like that's a big part of work, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we
yeah.
have that person that we're like, like I know we keep bumping heads. Like, help me figure this out. Like, here's their personality. How can I approach this person better? That's a big use case right there, just working through relationships. But even more, like troubleshooting your business problems. You can take a screenshot of your landing page and be like, hey, help me come up with better copy for this. What would you tweak to make more conversions on this landing page happen? That's all Copilot stuff. It's this like one-to-one conversation that you're constantly having with it. You can organize it. I love ChatGPT and Claude because you have these like little project folders. So it has the context of like the different types of project campaigns. It can be even be a whole area of your life. Maybe like your physical fitness can be a project within ChatGPT. And then you just keep the conversations going and how like the improvements you're making, whether it's workouts or you have a different marketing campaign you're working on for a season, you keep all the chats in there and it has all the context then of what's being talked about. All these are Copilot use cases. And I think marketers from executive CMOs can be using it this way, all the way down to entry level staff. It is applicable across the board.
The interesting part I was thinking about when you were talking to me about this was it's almost as if you have 10 or 15 different experts at your beck and call, right? You just talked about the use case of personal health. I
That's
used to
right.
talk to I had a personal trainer for a little bit of time, and I had three different people I had to talk to. One for, okay, I need to work on my back and my core.
Yep.
Another one, so that was exercise related. Another one that was trying to troubleshoot my diet because I'm vegetarian. So they were like, well, you can't eat this, you
Yep.
can't eat that. How does that work? So that's three people. And of course, the third person was more, how do you make sure you get enough sleep, and how do you calm your mind with yoga and everything else? So that's three people. So it's
Yep.
literally as if you in your folder concept, as you called it in chat, that's literally
Yep.
three different people, three different co-pilots, or one co-pilot in some way, shape, or form, but three different contextually very useful use cases. Then of course, then you get to work. There's a different set of five different, six different things, right?
Yep.
It's almost having an expert at your beck and call for every one of these things.
That's right. The big difference is experts will usually push on you what you need to do versus you can have to be a little bit more proactive with AI right now. I think that'll change eventually. I think it'll be more proactive in prompting you
Yeah.
in the future. Right now, you have to kind of know what questions to ask. You have to even identify that maybe you need some help in this area of your life or this part of your profession. Um, and that's okay. But like if you know you need help there, the easiest thing you can do is set up a project and be like, hey, I need help accomplishing this. I'm actually not quite sure how to get to the goal. Um, Ask me questions to better understand my situation so that you can coach me through it. And then it will actually start actively. If you prompt it to prompt you, essentially,
Yeah.
like all of
Help
a
me
sudden
help you.
it could start driving. It can go in driver's seat, but you have to tell it to go
It's a
into the
help me
driver's
help
seat
you
and then
use
help you.
case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once you
So
do that, it's a game changer.
so that leads me to the next question, which a lot of people go back and forth about. How important is prompt engineering, prompting, whatever you want to call that? I know a lot of people go on both ends of the spectrum. In your experience, you've learned this over the last few years. Has the type and the kind of prompting and the work that you've run into prompting helped you figure out that prompting is going to be important, will be important, or is it important right now, but it's something that might change?
This is a nuanced answer, and I'm really glad you asked it. So let me help you and your audience actually understand the nuance of prompt engineering. Prompt engineering used to be really, really important for anything dealing with AI because it was squirrely. You know, it wouldn't give specific, it wouldn't give good answers all the time. So we figured out how to engineer the prompts. And by engineering, it's kind of an over exaggeration because you got to remember, like, who started this whole thing? Developers, right? They're the
Yeah,
ones who invented AI and have been bearded. So they're using the language they
everything is
use it.
engineering.
We could just literally change engineering to clearer communication because that's what it is. Prompt engineering is just being more clear about what you want. In the early days, like even a year ago, it was pretty important to be highly, highly clear and specific so that it would give you good results. Nowadays, most AI has gotten so good that you don't have to do that anymore. You just really don't. Just tell it what you want and you can be vague about it and it will do a better job of understanding it and even prompting you with questions so it can get a better idea just like a good executive assistant would. So if you just talk to it and speak clearly, and there is something where it probably is going through a good to go through a prompt engineering course, not because you need to understand how to engineer it, but because we're all not very good communicators and learning how to work with AI forces you to become a good communicator because you realize that you get rapid feedback of what that response looks like when you speak to AI. So now I just
Yeah.
talk to AI like it's a human and I just have conversations with it. My favorite tool in ChatGPT right now is just the dictation tool. I push the little microphone, and I'm not even talking about the voice AI thing. I'm just talking about like it dictates, it turns it into text. I submit the prompt, and I will dictate a good paragraph or two. Be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, I'm trying to figure out the difference between these two business models. I want to launch a business with a friend, but I want to keep it lean and minimal. Help me understand the difference between the partnership and LLC. In this case, I don't think I need the liability. You see how much words I'm getting in there? That's a pain to type out, even in just that specific little prompt, but it's really easy to speak it. So if you can use the dictation tool just to communicate what you're trying and what you want to hear and what you want back from it, man, it does so well. You don't
I'll
have
give you
to
an
engineer it
interesting
anymore.
I'll give
There
you an
are some
interesting
specific use cases still for engineering. So after you ask your question, I do want to dive into where engineering is still required.
I do have an interesting use case. Have you heard of a product called Bordy, Boardy at all?
No,
Bordy
haven't
AI.
heard of that one.
Okay, so Bordy is a Canadian company that uses voice-based AI. So you would call Bordy on a phone number and you would talk to it. It has one specific type of use case, and it is a Australian accent that would speak back to you. And you could go on for 5 minutes and have a conversation with an LLM, and you wouldn't even know because you could interrupt it. It interrupts you sometime. And just like what you just said, you just say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm trying to do this. This thing comes back and gives you answers, but the whole goal of Bordy is just to connect you, right? The thing is, they're like, okay, I understood all this. At the end of the day, here's the
Yeah.
interesting part. I had a 2.5 minute conversation. Literally, it was like me going on a rant, and it came back and said, okay, this is what you want, and this is who. Thank you. That's all I wanted. So it's amazing how quickly it can summarize this thing. So talk to me a little bit about which cases now is prompt engineering still very useful vis-a-vis you can just give it a broad. For example, you can give it a broad, build me a website for SaaS this, and it goes and builds the whole thing out versus where prompt engineering is like, well, you still want to do a little bit of fine tuning.
Where you still need it is if you're using the API and you're actually trying to automate your AI. Because when you're automating things, consistency becomes really
Yeah,
important. When you're just shooting the breeze and you're just trying to have conversations and brainstorm ideas, consistency doesn't matter. It's just like talking to a co-pilot. You don't need the feedback you need from your or a friend. Like if you're having a conversation with a coworker or a friend or something about some ideas about a business case that you're working on, like you don't need it to come back in a certain format. It's just kind of loosey goosey. But when you're trying to automate something, like maybe you're trying to create some hyper personalized email drip sequence for your customers or your hopeful customers, you need to kind of engineer that thing a little bit more so that it's giving very specific personalization, very specific outputs. So that's when you want to engineer it so that you can get more consistency with it, which is again just being more clear in your communication, your expectations, maybe giving it examples. You engineer that a little bit more. Sorry for the sound.
don't worry about
um,
it.
the other thing that you want to engineer a little bit more is when you're using the deep research tools, which I think are some of the most powerful use cases of AI today, are these deep research tools that nobody's really using yet. The reason why you want to be more clear in your prompting is because it's going out and doing thinking and for you that takes it 30 minutes, but if you assign the same level of deep research to an employee, it would probably take them 20 to 40 hours. Now, if
Yeah,
you're going to
yeah.
assign an employee at a 20 to 40 hour task, chances are you're probably going to want to give them a light project scope. This is what I want. Here's the format that I want it in. Here's where you should go look for it. What I'm expecting from it. Go and do this work, and then you come back. But you want to kind of put tighter parameters around what you
But
want
yeah,
because it's going and doing 40 hours of work for you. Now, if it's getting
it's
it
like
done in
boundary
30 minutes,
conditions.
yeah. So
Like putting boundary
the one,
conditions. Don't go off the
yep.
guardrails type of thing.
Yep. So you want to give it clearer parameters of what you want, and it will go and hit it every single time. The one thing you have to be careful of with deep research is you don't want to specify how it does it, but you do want to specify the goals and what you want the report to look like at the very end. But you don't need to do the reasoning steps for it. Like, oh, go and check these websites, read it, summarize it, and do no, it will reason and figure that out itself. Just like you don't want to micromanage a good employee, you don't have to
Yeah,
micromanage
yeah.
the deep research tools, but you do want to specify like here's the general scope of why I want it, what I want it to be, and how I want it the report to be formatted. That ends up being a pretty long prompt if you think about it. And it's pretty good at knocking those out of the park if you prompt it that way.
You mentioned consistency, and that's one of the questions I get from a lot of people. I try using it and I get a lot of hallucinations, especially when you want to do things like you said, outreach emails, or if you want to be able to do some consistent API use case. How have you dealt with hallucinations, or let's call them errors, let's call them inconsistencies? I put them all in the bucket of hallucinations, which is you ask it one question one time, it gives you an answer, same question, maybe another time, with not a lot more different context, it gives you a slightly different answer.
Yeah. This is part of the skill of really honing AI as a skill is learning where it's consistent and where it's inconsistent in its hallucinations. This is that separates the amateurs from the pros because the amateurs run into them all the time. But it's kind of like learning how to run through an obstacle course really quickly, knowing that there's certain obstacles here. You learn how to compensate for it and get the most out of it, regardless of the fact that it has some loose ends. There's this paradox in AI called Moravec's paradox, and it's this weird thing where AI is really good at some things that seem really advanced to us, yet screws up royally on things that are actually really simple for us. It's really good at algebra and calculus, yet struggles with counting. That just seems it's counterintuitive. But once you understand that, you learn how to work around that and how to compensate for it with different systems, maybe even traditional computing systems or just manual brain power systems. So once you kind of have an understanding, and this is again what separates the amateurs from the pros, is I've spent like as a pro, I've spent more time understanding the nuances of what it can and can't do, and therefore I can build my automations uh, accordingly so that it can excel where AI can excel. And I don't expect it to excel where it can excel. I just compensate for it somehow else, whether it's a manual intervention, checking it, or using different compute styles, or just algorithms, or just different automation tools in order to force it to be consistent.
I'm going to skip on the second part. I'm going to go to content. Obviously, a lot of people using AI for content. A lot of it is drivel as well because they pretty much show cut and paste, right?
Yeah.
how do you really become a 10x marketer, if that is such a thing, like a 10x developer using AI, as opposed to a 0.2x content developer because you're using AI and it just seems like slop?
Yeah. So again, it really has to do with understanding what AI can do exceptionally well and what it can't do exceptionally well. Today, at this very moment, AI is not really the greatest at understanding like the real nuanced pain of your customers and how to solve it in the way that you know it needs to be solved. Your audience can get a better understanding by just having a lot of interviews with customers. Now, I can use AI to summarize those interviews and help prompt you questions out of and find insights in them. But you're going to just having face-to-face conversations can't beat that. If you have a clear method and approach, then using AI to like repurpose it and actually create it into content is the way to go. For example, I think video podcast is by far like this one is by far the best form of content today because you and I can talk, have a conversation, talking about my real experience and my expertise here, and then you can get a transcript. AI is then fantastic at turning that transcript into content that isn't dribble, that isn't just regurgitation, because that's all AI does. If you ask it for insights about marketing for AI, it can only regurgitate what it's read online. So if you want to have unique ideas, you got to go and speak that. You got to go and create it.
Yeah.
AI can then repurpose it because we all know that we want to come up with, I mean, that's kind of like the content marketing strategy, right? Come up with the pillar form and then repurpose it in all the medium and smaller forms. So this podcast, video podcast, in my opinion, is like the top
The
pillar
pillar.
that can then be repurposed into audio, video clips, social media, little posts all day into a whole blog post. And that's what I do with my own podcast right now. Now, there's times when you want to create little snippets of LinkedIn. Like I'm great at writing for LinkedIn, but even AI can write better than I can for LinkedIn. I've been honing this craft for 5 years. I've been posting on LinkedIn like multiple times a day, like for 5 years. But oftentimes I find it even easier if I have a hot idea where I'm like, ooh, I just responded to someone else's post and I have like a hot take on that and it just prompted something in me. I'm like, I could write this. And sometimes I still do just write it from scratch, post it. But oftentimes I'll open up ChatGPT, dictate my idea, and be like, turn that into a LinkedIn post.
Yeah.
A year ago, it sucked at writing that LinkedIn post. With today's models, it's actually pretty dang good. I still tweak it, but dang, it's just so much faster to be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, I want you to write a post. This is coming out for me, like probably just posted for me now that I scheduled it. Like write a post about LinkedIn versus X. I'm
Yeah.
team
Yeah. Yeah.
LinkedIn. I'm like people on X like use authenticity as a mask for being a jerk.
Yeah.
LinkedIn still understands the meaning of tact. Like create a post about that. And then I used it to create an image too, and it wrote the whole post for me. And it was great. But it started with my idea of like, hey, create a post around hiss. These are some of the things I love about LinkedIn. Now go and create a them versus us post about LinkedIn being better than Twitter, since that's a fun thing to just that's a pinata smack every once in a while, you know.
Awesome. Dan, this was a good conversation. I know we can delve into a lot more things, but I think we should probably pause here because most of my conversation is about 20 to 25 minutes. Most of the people that listen to me tend to do it in 1.2 to 1.5 speed, and they tend to go specifically from San Francisco by train all the way to Burlingame. I know my audience reasonably well. There are people that stop at Burlingame, then there are people that go all the way to Palo Alto, and there are people that are going all the way to San Jose on the train. I'm the
Awesome.
Caltrain podcast guy. That's my thing. But it was definitely good talking to you. I'm sure we're going to have you back again very soon. But awesome talking to you, my brother. Have a good one, and I'll hopefully talk to you really soon.